Welcome everybody to Steffen Studios Podcast. We're so excited to have you here, and we are more excited that we have Geoffrey Serdar in the house.
Hello.
Geoffrey Serdar is not only an investor, a real estate agent, my mentor, but most importantly, he is my friend. Let's get this kicked off.
That feels good to hear.
Geoffrey, super stoked to have you in here.
Thank you.
And it's interesting when you start rolling, it's such a different dynamic versus when you're just kind of kicking off. But
Because we know we're on.
Yeah. But today we're going to kick it really easy. We're going to have some chops later. We're going to munch food while everybody watches us talk, which I think is really special. What other podcast episode has somebody munching on food?
I just realized, do we even have any like flosser sticks?
I do.
Because if we're eating barbecue, we might as well show people like, hey, we're a clean crew over here. We're not letting meat chunks just chill in our teeth. Yeah, I'm looking forward to the barbecue. But that's interesting how, what is it about being recorded that makes you either focus too much or begin to forget what you'd even want to talk about, right? Like it's a strange thing just in general and like in life, where you can have these like long-winded, very comfortable conversations where people are just kind of having a stream of consciousness and you're just going back and forth and pa, 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 pa. But the moment all of a sudden you know that there's the potential for another person to see it, it's like you have to like all of a sudden practice the beginning of the conversation until you get comfortable again, And I think that's just with everything. Like that's practice, right? Like you can't do anything well unless you do it a lot. And this is the same as probably every other endeavor in life.
Yeah.
Right?
If you think about it, we're constantly on surveillance. Like think about all the cameras around us. We're constantly being recorded. And if everybody literally thinks about that, then we should always be actors.
Are we? Are we all actually actors?
Well, think about it. We're always on video.
On stage.
When something bad happens, what's the first thing that comes out? A video footage of that thing that happened. Every single corner in this world is recorded. But nevertheless, I wanted to ask you some really fun questions today.
Okay.
And we're going to dive into something that you're really good at, investing, as well as real estate.
I try to.
The first question that I had, you, as a real estate agent, you not only give advice, you walk the walk and you talk the talk by actually investing into investment properties, into homes yourself. And how many doors do you have?
It should be 38 now.
Jeez Louise.
Which, I'm proud of that number. And I said this the other day on LinkedIn. It's not quite 100. I know guys have a lot more. I know plenty of people have much less. And I think it's really important, compete with yourself. And, you want to take others' accomplishments and you want to look up to them. Don't like ever disparage yourself and like think you're not on the right path. And certainly remember that like whoever around you is also doing like phenomenally. Like don't get jealous, be proud of them, right? Because take a little bit of that energy that they're just putting out in the world and remember that like people will help you if, one, you smile, you're thankful, you show gratitude, and, people want to teach you stuff. I have only been able to do anything in life, not just, everything that I would say I'm okay at or like leaning a little bit better at, it's only because I had gotten help along the way. And the only way that you can get help is to ask. And I think that is one of the better skill sets of a pretty good real estate agent or person that likes to invest in real estate just in general is it's an industry of asking questions, right? Like I talked to my business coach about this, and for the longest time prior to having a business coach, I thought sales was the art of persuasion. And that's just not it at all. That is a very surface, actually kind of like maniacal and kind of manipulative way of looking at sales or way of looking at sales in general. What sales actually is it's a process of asking questions, right? You need to know what it is that the other person is maybe unsure of themselves, what they're trying to accomplish, why they're confused, where they're trying to go. And as you ask more questions and you get a deeper analysis and understanding of what it is that they're actually, their existences in that moment, then you can begin to tailor like solutions and suggestions. That's sales. All the other stuff, manipulation, that's just self-serving. And I have found that those that are actually incredibly only self-serving, and they start to flounder because people can smell it, and it's tacky. So I would say that one of the things that I'm starting to at least get comfortable in priding myself in is that I've become to realize that I'm good at asking questions and asking for help. Now, there's a couple ways a person could look at that. They could be like, well, a guy that's just going around asking for help all day, well, that's almost like a bum also, right? Like a bum is like sitting on the street holding his little can or whatever, looking for quarters. Can you help me? Can you help me? That's a different kind of ask, right? I'm going to tell you about a recent situation that happened to me this week, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
About how if I didn't ask this question, I think it would have sucked. So I just like went for it, right? So I bought another building on Friday, and I'm really proud of it. You know, it's not the biggest. It's just a little 8-unit. And, you know, it's not glamorous by any means, but I am very proud of it because, you know, it's going to be my baby for a little while here until I pass on the adoption to another guy. Anyways, my insurance bill was much bigger than I thought it was going to be for the year. And insurance in Minnesota, so you're going to learn this. If anybody out there is watching this, they're going to learn that the commercial real estate multifamily insurance market, so that's anything over 4 units, so 5 and more. The insurers are running outside of the state. They are no longer interested in underwriting policies in Minnesota. And this is the reason. So I'm going to go through a whole little bunch of tangents and we'll circle back. But it's because I learned this and I think it's important for others to know it. Here in Minnesota, we will take the smallest hail damage and we will force our insurance agent to get us a new roof. Okay. And let me tell you, that has really everybody else that's buying insurance. Now, I talked to my insurance agent. I talked to a couple other insurance agents. And they all actually said the same thing. They said, Geoffrey, look outside. Next time you drive by any apartment building at all, look at the roof. See if you can find one that does not have a new roof. And so like, now I'm paying attention to this because I never did before. And I'm realizing, yeah, okay, so they were right. Every roof is new in Minnesota. Like very rarely is there an old decrepit one. And if you're only spending, let's say $3,000 a year and you're putting on a $20,000 roof, eventually that money is going to start to evaporate, or at the very least, the people willing to take those risks are going to be like, no. I don't really think Minnesota is the right place for us to insure anymore. They are an expensive, the policy money going out, the claims coming in, whatever it is, you know, like these things are disjointed. So anyways, so in comparison to some of the other 8 units that I've purchased, we're talking it's almost double the yearly premium. And I didn't realize that was going to happen. And that was something essentially that we had found out quite close to the end of this last week. And it's not that I panicked. It's that I'm a real estate investor. I want the bank to hold all of the leverage as possible. I don't want to come up with my own money. And I'm not like, people don't understand that until they become real estate investors. But to us, cash is not king. Credit is king. And we want to use as much credit as possible. And I do not feel any shame or embarrassment that many banks have decided to give me their blessing, because I manage that credit very, very well. Anyway, so I had this big insurance bill, and I had met with one of the owners of the building the night before, and this was actually the first time that I had seen this place. And I wanted to actually not have to see it in person to make a decision in buying it. I wanted to take that next step, because I know there's a lot of bigger outfits out there that will never step foot on a place. So I really wanted to get comfortable in studying the numbers. I had an inspector go out there. Patrick, if you're listening to this, I always appreciate you. You're a valuable person in my life, and I look forward to always doing business with you. Anyways, he went and he really studied the place and gave me a phenomenal report. And I wanted to get confident making my decisions by studying that information instead of doing what I did in the earlier period of my real estate investing career, which is having to be there and control and micromanage everything and really get my fingernails into all of it. I think everybody has to kind of do that in the beginning anyways, right? Otherwise, you're not going to get comfortable. You're not going to learn until that. So anyways, I met with one of the owners and going through the building and told them that I really appreciate that they're allowing me to adopt this building from them, because I don't really think in terms of ownership anymore. We are renting basically everything in this life until we're passed on and we move on to whatever comes next. We're really kind of like, it's a placeholder, right? Like I'm just a placeholder right now. And I wanted to let Zach, his name, know that I appreciate adopting the place. Anyways, so they gave me what is oftentimes settled is the prorated rents and the security deposits, that gets transferred from prior owner to new owner. Again, new owner has to, have these funds because people move out, and as long as they, God willing, don't destroy the place, you give them back, their security deposits. Anyways, so I got this big insurance bill that it's not that I wasn't prepared for it, it's just that I was surprised because it is more than double what I thought it was going to be.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Let me circle back about the rent thing real quick.
Yeah.
I know you're like on the verge of the story, so we're going to casually tease everybody.
Yeah.
Tease everybody till the ending of this awesome story. Why do you say we don't own anything? Is that because we're renting from the banks or like loaning money from the banks?
A little bit.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because, a lot of people don't understand also that commercial real estate debt is not like residential real estate debt, like a mortgage. A mortgage, and actually, American mortgages, real estate mortgages, are very different than how they are across most of the world. Most of the world has their financing for real estate similar to how so their homes, the real estate, the homes that they live in, how we have it as our commercial lending. So commercial lending typically will have a 20 or 25 or 30 amortization schedule. And amortization basically means that you have you think of it as a graph like this. And as you get through your entire term, you pay more interest as opposed to principal each month. The amount of interest you pay drops a little bit. You pay a little bit more principal. So it goes like so. And they typically lock it for about 5 years or 7 years if you're lucky. But that's actually how most countries do it. And most countries don't even have fixed rates like we do for our residential real estate mortgages, which is interesting. Like, it is a gift how our banking is in the United States. And this is starting to go away a little bit, as credit markets squeeze, which is happening, as the economy gets a little bit shaky, as the Fed tries to rein in inflation and try to rein in the prices of assets, credit kind of evaporates out of the market. So anyways, I'm
Back to the story.
Back to the story. So I called the gentleman who was one of the owners. There's a couple owners, and I called the other guy that I had been in most communication with. And I said, Jason, I'm going to ask you a question. I don't blame you if you say no, but I'm going to ask it anyways. And the reason why is I exchanged into this property, and my goal was to not bring any new cash. And this insurance bill that I just got, that I got to deal with, I'm not particularly happy with it. And he's laughing because he's in the insurance markets. And he's like, what do you mean? It's like, I'm telling him, and he's like, and he's kind of laughing at me a little bit. He's like, Geoffrey, dude, the insurance markets are getting squeezed. Like, you're actually kind of lucky with what this policy is. And I'm like, you're lucky. I'm lucky. He's like, just wait until all of your other places, your insurance gets renewed. You think you're unhappy now? You're about to be unhappy a lot more in a few months. So I asked him, I said, so here's the thing, Jason. One of my goals, and you could tell me no, it's your right. Like, I would never just deposit your check because it's your check until I own the place, until tomorrow. But Zach did hand me the check in. And what I'd like to do, with your permission, and you got to ask your partner, it's a big handshake deal, and I want you to trust me. My reputation means a lot. You mind if I deposit that check tonight? This was Thursday, the night before closing. You mind if I deposit that check tonight? And then the two goals that I've had, which was don't visit the property prior to the end, and don't bring any new cash to the table. I mean, he said, well, Geoffrey, that's a big ask. I was like, yeah, I told you, I believe it was a big ask. And again, you can say no, and I don't want him to say no, right? I want him to say yes. And he called me back later. He's like, Geoffrey, yeah, you know what? If this is something that helps you, go for it. And so I was very proud of even thinking that would have been an okay question to ask in the first place. And this goes back in the beginning of this is real estate investing, as opposed to investing specifically in like easily tradable equities and things like that. There is an entire vibrancy of human to human connection and the need to ask questions. Now, with stock trading, of course, you're going to need to ask questions because you have to understand, like, you got to dive into the data of quarterly reports and all that. I don't know any of that. Like, that's not fun for me. But it's fun for me to ask a question, even if it's a small chance, and hoping for a positive result.
I love that. The power in the ask.
Yeah, the power in the ask.
So 2 things: smile and ask.
And be grateful.
And be grateful.
And don't be grateful just because it's an act to be grateful. Be grateful because these things will actually help your future. And so you got to actually be grateful because it will make your life better.
Love that. Yeah. How do you feel about this idea of acting or being like it already happened? For example, I want this property. And yes, I do invest with Geoffrey. If I want this property and I'm coming to you and I'm still in the search of things, already being in the place like I already own it.
Okay. So I like this. I like this idea a lot. This topic a lot, because I'm a firm believer in do not allow yourself to get into analysis paralysis. And that was taught to me by a gentleman in his 70s, where he said something to me that I'll never forget. And I might butcher how I describe it, but he's like, he went to a real estate conference and he was sitting next to a guy And he already had several hundred units under ownership at this time. And this real estate conference was for a sector in real estate that I don't really know anything about, so I'm forgetting that part. But he asked the guy next to him, he's like, so what are some of the fun deals that you've worked on? And the guy said to him, oh, I've never actually done any. And he's like, this is kind of like, and he was taken aback, and he was like, he thought he was amongst many seasoned people. And the guy then said, I just really like learning. Well, I don't like learning, okay? I like doing. Learning bores me. It's why I'm not a studious person. Now, I don't want people to think that I don't respect those that are phenomenal learners, because that's not what this is. I'm only talking about Geoffrey. I'm only talking about me. I don't like learning. I like to act on something. I like to put my hand in the fire. I like to make mistakes. And with what you just said, the idea of choose a property and already feel like it's yours. Well, I love that, because what you're doing is you are deciding that it is yours. And getting it, well, those are just like, that's the afterthought. There's a lot of people that focus on the process, and then the get never ends up actually happening.
Do you believe in the enjoy the journey, not the destination hope situation?
In certain ways.
Sure.
I enjoy the journey as long as I'm accomplishing. Okay? If I'm just lally-dallying around and I'm just enjoying the journey, no, that's a homeless person. Okay, the homeless people love the journey. Otherwise they would choose differently. You know, I like knowing, and that is something very true about you, Steffen. I mean, once you decide on something, okay, the process of getting there, that's actually less effort.
Yes.
And I actually think this is you could almost think of this as like a crisis in society right now. And a lot of this has to do with how we are educated in government schools. And there is, and I've brought this up in other conversations and possibly other podcasts with other people, but government education is no longer willing to allow people to tinker. It is a information overload and how that information answers a question. And I think that is damaging. It's clearly damaging. I mean, just the fact, let's talk about this bridge. And I'm sorry for just going all over this place, but this bridge in Baltimore that just, whatever, they said that it's going to take 6 to 10 years to get done. And how long did the Empire State Building get built? A few? Mm-hmm. Like, what are we doing? We are taking away people's ability to act on something and learn as they go. Learn as they go is some of the most remarkable ways to learn anything and to accomplish things. And honestly, Steffen, this might be one of your greatest skill sets, is that you are learning as you go every day and not aimlessly. It's actually awesome. You did it at a much earlier age than I did. And for that, I'm very proud of you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I feel like it's so much easier when you see a goal and it's right there. It's at the grab of your hand. All you got to do is just jump for it.
You got to jump for it.
Sometimes it's nice to have support, especially, let's take real estate. It's so nice to be like, I'm going there, I'm going 110 miles per hour, and I need somebody to fill in the dots. And that is literally where you come in. I mean, when I was starting out, I knew nothing. Okay, I want this property and I want this. Where do I start? You know, the smile got me in so far, but then the ask, like you said, I asked so many questions. And for those people who can't ask you live right now, I'm going to ask you for them. Where does one start when it comes to real estate? Let's say they want to do an investment property. Let's say they're a newlywed that's trying to buy a house, a condo? Do they call you? Do they call a bank? Do they have like a check ready? If they're buying with cash, where do they start?
People that don't know where to start need a coach, in my opinion. And a lot of the times people will default to who typically is a person's main coach in their life, which is usually the default is the dad. They'll ask their dad first for advice. Let me tell you, I'm lucky to have a smart dad, and everybody's dad is not going to know the right answer. So if that is your natural inclination to default to your own father, it's not necessarily a bad thing. It's not necessarily a good thing. There is value in asking. I mean, it's 2024. Shoot a text to a guy that's done it a bunch. And that's an easy task. You're sitting on your couch. You're already watching HBO Max. And you have this idea, 2-bedroom apartment in what used to be a great neighborhood and no longer is. I'm not going to name any names because somebody's going to fair housing in. And, text a guy that knows. And this is not a sales pitch. It's that I have asked so many dudes and gals that know so much more than me. Let me impart some of that wisdom on you. Because you got to ask for wisdom. And this is not like some esoteric, ultra philosophical like task. Hey, Geoffrey, I want to move out. Keep it that simple. Or, hey, Geoffrey, I've met somebody the other day that owns 500 units. I was a waiter at a restaurant, and this guy, I just asked him, what do? You come into the restaurant every week. And, I've gotten to know you. Like, what's your life? And the guy turns around and he says, well, I actually own 500 units. Like, you can do that. There's a lot of people in America that are dumb from a credentialized standpoint. They don't have degrees. They don't have accreditations. They're not given the blessing by the paper, right? But they like to ask questions. They like to act. They like to move forward. They like to remember that courage is actually a human characteristic. Mm-hmm. It's not courage is not something, we all have it, at least a little bit. Anybody that thinks that they don't have any courage whatsoever, it's only because they've been downtrodden. It still can be awakened. And, it sometimes takes a person, exterior of yourself, to remind you that you have a lot of gifts in you that can be channeled. They just need to be kind of brought back up a little bit.
Love it. And if you guys are like me or were like me or maybe potentially are going to be like me who didn't have anyone to answer any of my questions, can you give us your number real quick?
Yeah, 952-258-3100. That's my iPhone. So if you have an Android, I'm probably going to want to do business with you less, to be honest.
All right, we just took a break, everybody, and we feasted upon meats on meats.
Meat only.
So if you have...
a little bit of sauce.
Yeah, we just talked about the carnivore diet and how incredible it is. However, end of the second week is a big surprise for everybody and their digestive system.
I didn't know that. Let's just say that if that's true, you feel lighter afterward.
I think it is, yeah. So we'll see about that. Answered, where do I start with real estate? As a definitive answer, the answer would be...
go to someone with experience and don't make it a complicated ask. Just say, hey, I would like to do X. And then allow that person to essentially ask 100 questions and really get to know what it is that you're actually trying to accomplish. For the most part, if it's a person starting that journey, it's just that they want a better neighborhood. right? That's simple. But that's not what you were. You wanted not necessarily a neighborhood. You wanted to dive like immediately right into creative capital growth, right?
Correct.
Through the route of real estate ownership. And I know I said we're all kind of renting before, but whatever, ownership. You wanted to use it as your tool to expand your wealth. And I don't know if everybody knows the route that you had allowed me to coach you through, which was the contract for deed life. But if you hadn't done that, I don't think you would have, like, how many units are we at right now?
We're 4 units, 3 active.
4 units and 3 active. And that is in the span of how short of a duration?
It's probably within a year.
And that started with a FaceTime.
Oh gosh, the first time you called me, it was an incredible experience. I've never had anybody, you said, okay guys, I'm going to recap this real quick for y'all.
That was fun though, I remember that.
Yeah.
I know exactly where I was at my house. I was
too.
outside next to my garage.
I was outside of
sunny.
a Target,
Yeah.
and Kate was running in, currently my fiance, she's running into Target, and I was standing there, I'm like, wow, this guy's calling me, it's just out of the blue. Like, you didn't text, you didn't do anything, you just called me.
Mm-hmm.
And you said, Steffen, what I want you to do, and I want you to know. First, I want you to know, and then what I want you to do. You said, Steffen, I want you to know that I now will do whatever it takes to get stuff done for you, and I work for you now. Which is incredible. Like, for anybody to hear that there's a person that's willing to do whatever it takes. Mm-hmm. Second thing you said is, treat me like as your lawyer and be as transparent as possible. Mm-hmm. And tell me everything. Don't hide any finances. Don't hide anything, because the creative solutions only come through honesty.
100%. Actually, that's an interesting topic in and of itself, especially because of the culture that we live in Minnesota. And I think this is an interesting thing to discuss. Minnesota is private. Minnesotans are extremely private people. And I think that privacy actually can be a hamstring. It can kind of keep one from finding like routes of opportunity and growth. You and I are not traditional Minnesotans. We're both Slavs, right? So like, we're gonna figure it out any way we possibly can. It's a survival mechanism, right? They've had it so good in Minnesota for so long. And when I mean good, I just mean peaceful, right? And all of that. But anyways, they're so private. If you're too private, then you can't get suggested tricks or you can't, I just know a lot of people that are just so unwilling to divulge and simultaneously realize that because of that, they are worshiping their privacy more than they are their family's accomplishment. And I think that's very strange in general, because we're men. I have a kiddo. You don't have one yet, but you're getting married. Now, every decision that you make is not just for Steffen. Soon it's going to be for Steffen and Kate. Every decision. And that's really not just for the two of you. My assumption is one day you're going to have kiddos. And so, and we're objectivists. Like, we enjoy to make our income in money and everything like that. But it's not us only. It's not for us only. It is for someone else or for others. And if you are unwilling to share anything about yourself, typically that means that you will have a lot of difficulty in making professional strategic alliances as well, right? Because the only way to become close with people is to divulge. That's number one. But the only way to have soldiers properly working for you is if they know the plan that they are fighting for. Which is why I could take this and really like broaden that up even higher. This is why I think America's not doing so great in our warring campaigns, is because the powers that be above them, the generals, the intelligence, and I don't want to tiptoe on anybody's. I appreciate everybody that works for us as a country, but I do think that like the guys on the ground are not being told anything anymore, and that's why they're not accomplishing anything anymore. And taking that same idea, when I tell someone, tell me as much as possible, it allows me to really gauge the workability of what I want to accomplish for them in the first place.
Yeah.
I have a friend right now that I'm helping, and she's buying this extraordinary home, and I'm very proud of her. And I'm very thankful because she has really shared a lot of her. And she'll see this. I don't have to drop any names if she sees this. But it allowed me to actually rein in some of what she wanted to accomplish. Also, this is another thing that I do that I think is important. It's like, I don't think it's important. I don't think everybody should go to the absolute max of their budgets all the time.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's a bad call. You know, you want to get as much real estate as possible as an asset class and you know, with your other portfolio, however you want to diversify it. I don't actually believe in diversification, but that's another topic for another day. But like, maybe $1 million of stuff is not the right answer. Maybe the right answer is closer to, you know, 725 because of how that aligns with the income that you're actually, even if you can go out and get levered up to $1 million, you know, and so, but it's with divulging information, and then with that, you know, make yourself naked to me. It's a weird thing to say. You let me understand your finances, and then I can take that information and I can actually make a much more realistic proposal in what it is that you need to accomplish.
Yeah.
And you did this.
Yeah.
Okay. I told you, be transparent. We knew what our roadblocks were. Our roadblocks meant banks aren't going to help us at all. And not for a while either. And so we did other things. We were creative in other ways. And I got to tell you, Steffen, like, this is coming back to the first thing, like, I think after we had that conversation, you already realized that you were a real estate investor.
I think I did, and I've been wanting to do it for a year.
Mm-hmm.
I've wanted to invest into real estate for a very long time. I've been screwed over by certain people that did not have the knowledge or the right knowledge. Mm. And
well, let's expound on that.
I think the biggest thing that anyone looking for a real estate agent or looking for answers or looking to get something is it's got to be trust. Like, I completely, you know how many people told me that contract for deed is the most riskiest thing? Mm. 3. Doesn't sound like a lot, but there were 3. Like, there was my accountant at the time. It was another real estate agent. You're looking at these things and you're like, I think this is doable because I just trusted you. Mm-hmm. I thought, okay, this is owner financed. It makes sense. But without trust into your real estate agent, knowing that Geoffrey will have my back mm-hmm. and has my best interest at heart, not just hey, I'm just trying to make money, or hey, I'm trying to do this, or you know, so many real estate agents do it for the commission. Mm-hmm. But then once you told me, you're like, hey, I'm gonna when you told me this was insane. You said, I'm gonna roll back my commission into your situation mm-hmm. if need be. Mm-hmm. At the time with the sale, and that was a big power move. That was pretty sexy. Like, think about that. That's no longer, hey, this is you and I'm helping you out. This is us. Mm. And you're never looking into a short-term game. You're looking into a long-term game.
Got to think in terms of, because real estate ownership as a portfolio growth strategy is a long-term play.
Yeah.
Right? Like, Twitter makes it seem like you're going to get a Rolex after your first year. That's just not real.
No.
And the people that have Rolexes shouldn't be owning their Rolexes anyways. Do you want to know the and Brian, I love you. I know you want everybody to own a Rolex tomorrow, whether they can get one or not. I hope you're listening to this. That's Brian over at RF Moeller. Good dude.
Yeah, great
and
guy.
If you do want a Rolex, that's your guy. But I was once told by a different guy that owns a lot of doors, you can only buy a Rolex when your monthly cash flow can pay for it outright. That's a big, heavy. That's a big statement. It takes time. But it is a snowball. And then it begins to happen quickly. And contract for deeds are interesting because banking in general, the entire idea of banking, fractional reserve banking, you put your deposit into a bank and that bank goes out and it lends 90% or whatever it is to others, and it extends out. Contract for deeds is the exact same thing. It's that the seller is the bank holding the credit. And I actually think that contract for deeds are the most powerful tool in all of real estate investing. And they are trickier there are consequences. A seller does have the ability to take it back quicker. And there have been a lot of immigrants and first-generation people that were scammed through very predatory contract for deed, like rates and terms and those sorts of things. But that is not what you got, because you have a soldier, and you did not get raped on any predatory types of terms. I wouldn't have allowed it. But that allowed you to get noticed by a commercial lender, a bank, and to be able to be into that world. And that would eventually happen anyways, Steffen. Don't think that you're only who you are in the real estate capacity just because of me. It's just that I helped you get there faster. Okay, that eventually would have happened because that was already the fire that was in your loins, right? Like that was in your mind and your heart. I just helped give you that little extra push, and I mean to jump in the Airbnb bandwagon, or just to do that so quickly was what I thought was just cool. You got a lot of courage. I've told you this before, but some of that courage, sometimes, there's a lot of times that I learned from you, even though there's a lot of time between us. I always say it, and I keep saying it. Bro, I wish I started as early as you did. I didn't. I wish I had a me when you started. I didn't. I was too bullheaded.
Something I've been living with for the last couple of weeks was I'm replaceable. That idea of I'm not the best videographer or photographer. I'm not the best production company, nor am I the best social media company. There are people out there that are so much better than me, and I know that 100%. But when you know that anytime you're on a project, especially with long-term clients, you are replaceable very easily. You have a different kind of fire. It's not anxiety. It's not stress. But it's not just giving your 100%. It's giving your 110. You know what the best part about feeling replaceable? Having the feeling of being replaceable is the overwhelming gratitude that you're there and that you have the opportunity. If you want more deep content, the really deep, juicy stuff, Real Talk with Geoffrey, check it out. It's podcast, it's real estate, it's humorous, it's delightful to watch. So take a look. But for me, it's the gratitude that I still get to be here and I have this opportunity. And at first, it was, I don't think I'm going to have long on this earth, so I got to get tons accomplished. That's why I work 12 to 16-hour days, because I don't know how much I have. So I'm like, okay, well, I want to do everything, and I want to retire by 30, and I want to do all these things. And it drives you in a very aggressive way.
God, I would love to know what it's like to retire by 30.
Gosh. Tell me more, right?
Yeah.
So, but then it switched to this, and it's just been maybe max a month here. It switched to this feeling of what we just talked about, where it still drives me. It's still aggressive, but it's not as aggressive as, hey, dude, you don't have a lot more to live. Which the gratitude is extreme in both. Think about it. Every day you cherish, every job you cherish, every experience you cherish so much. And maybe you could actually expand on this a little bit. What gratitude can do, because you did talk about, smile, asking gratitude. What can gratitude do? Does gratitude drive you, or does gratitude simply is the product of the,
Well, I can say this. I was not a grateful person for a very long time, most of my life. I shouldn't say most of my life. Definitely, I was an ungrateful person until I was about 27, maybe 28. And I definitely had this idea, I had expectations, not just of people, but of like how society is to be formed. And I think it's easy to tell people that we are grateful. What's definitely true is that telling another person that you're grateful is never going to hurt. Being grateful is very different, though. And I was definitely not grateful for most of my life. The moment I was the most grateful was, and I'm gonna, I will rephrase that. The first time I realized what the feeling of gratitude actually is when I did my first tenant turnover, because it was so messy. And it was many 16 to 18 hour days of cleaning on my hands and knees. And in that moment, what I realized that I was grateful for was being taught to not have to live like that in the first place, as my lifestyle growing up and my internal family culture. And right there, no matter how much approval or not that I had gotten growing up, at the very least, what I knew is my family culture is we are not repulsive slobs. And I love that. I loved that, truly. I started to feel good wiping the filth away because I was like, this has never been a part of my life before.
Right.
How incredible. So, there are so many things that our family, our close friends do for us that we don't know until we meet people that are completely the opposite. And what I really realize is that I'm a little bit older than you. Most people, and I shouldn't say this because this is a very critical thing to say about people in general, but most people will discard everything around them and be completely agnostic to the goods and bads of anything, because most people are in their own lane, right? And so when you look back in your history of your life and how you've developed and where you came, and you think God, that family is so much better than mine. It's it's only because you don't know what's happening over there, right? But love there's many different kinds, and it can be shocking that some don't have any of it, So I don't know. We're getting on a huge tangent here. Sorry, I think I am getting too deep here.
It's beautiful to feel gratitude because I feel like I was just talking to a buddy today and we talked a little bit about this. And the amount of linear feelings is through the roof. It's a mix of depression and anxiety. And I have a very hard time believing in depression.
In depression?
Yeah. And I also, and I try to understand as much as possible. I've never experienced it to a full extent.
I don't get depressed either.
I don't
I
understand.
get bored or I get lonely.
Bored or lonely, I understand. Those are very common, right? Anxiety, I also think that's either a nervous system tick or too many carbs. So just check yourself. But depression could it be the fact of a lack of a purpose?
But that is what it is. And the fact that the word depression even exists and that isn't in the definition is a terrible conditioning of people. To say that I'm depressed, no. You're not busy. You're not being used. None of your gifts are being used. You're not in a state of kinetic energy moving forward or moving just in general. Depression, I know that they say it's like this heavy weight is on your shoulders. So, make your bed.
Yeah.
After you make your bed, clean your counter. After you clean your counter, look around your room, see all the clothes that are on the ground. Put yourself back into motion because you're not depressed, you're static.
Yeah.
Okay, and I am angry at the therapy world, just in general, for having tricked people into thinking that a pill will unstatic or will take away the depression, because that's not what it is. It's a physical act that will. And sometimes it's as simple as just taking one step and putting it in front of the other one.
I was talking to my sister the other day, and we were talking about this incredible thing. And I'm going through premarital counseling myself. So I'm learning a lot and I'm trying to figure out all this stuff. What we were talking about was the men. It's common that there's women that stay at home and men have jobs. It's fairly common. It's also common to have both jobs, but I feel like, especially in the Slav world,
It's Slavic. It's more
very much so
roles.
There's roles, yeah. The women stay at home with the kids, and then the husband of the family or whatnot has the purpose of the job. And she said that in the first year, when she had her first child, she had a very powerful purpose. She had all these things motivating her. She had a side job. She still had a baby, but she was so inspired. And it felt like, for most moms, stay-at-home moms, they're like, how did you do that? You have a job and you have a kid and you clean the house? Whoa, you crazy. On the other hand, she said she is already on her second child. She is 100% stay-at-home. By stay-at-home, she puts a beautiful atmosphere into the house. I don't want to say cleans and cooks, because that's very stereotypical and almost offensive. But she creates a beautiful atmosphere in the house. She does chores and she takes care of the babies. But the way she feels is so much less driven by purpose. She described it like this: making $1 million today, and then losing it all tomorrow to make another $1 million, and then losing it all again to make another $1 million. And every day is the same exact thing. And she's like, it's so exciting at the end of the day when you make that $1 million. You feel like top of the world. But next morning, you lost it. And it's this terrifying almost feeling. Would there be less attachment styles? What I've noticed, this is not Susanna. Now we're steering away from Susanna, guys. My sister's awesome.
But I need to know what that means. I need, like, when you say that term, what does that term mean?
When a lady or a man who's a stay-at-home dad, when they stay at home, they almost are attached with their energy to the other person who's making money. The other person's walking around doing their thing, maybe office, maybe this. But then when they come back, there's an attachment feel where like, I need and I want and do this and do that because I've been busy all day, but the purpose hasn't fed them fully. So they're requiring to get fed.
The out of the house soldier and the inside the house homemaker.
Wonderful.
Okay, because I mean, this is Minnesota. There's so many dudes that are staying at home. The soldier outside of the house in the field, fight, doing stuff, comes home, can't even understand what it's like to be at home. Feels like a guest. in their own home because what they thrive in is the battlefield, right?
And they get fulfillment from that
The
purpose.
battlefield.
Yeah.
Killing.
Yep.
Okay. Killing. Let's just call it for what it is, right? Homemaker is not in the battlefield. It's a different kind of a battlefield, but it is a battlefield, but it is a battlefield within the household. Like I have a daughter, okay? I mean, when I come home, and Benedetta, if you ever watch this, I love you so much. But when you ask me, what are you doing 50 times in a row? And then Sabrina says, she does that to me all day. I don't understand it, how she does it. And so I can understand the homemaker going crazy, to be honest. And sometimes, I think honest men would just flat out say it, right? It's hard to be at home sometimes. It's hard to be at home. And if you like to kill, if you like to be in the war, in the battle, and it's hard to even, how do you pivot when you've been killing all day? How do you pivot? I once knew a guy who was a drone squadron leader of some sort. I don't know, military. How do you go from dropping bombs in deserts on the other side of the world and then go get Taco Bell in the middle of the day and then go back to it and then go to the wife and the kids at home? How does it even happen, right? How does the wife how do they even connect after a day like that, right? And so when you say, someone that is saying they're going the ups and downs of that every day, I actually think this is one of the reasons why it's so important to have a small business for a family where both parents are actively involved in it, because it does more than creating this separation where the homemaker actually can't relate to anything soldier is doing, and soldier can't relate whatsoever to what homemaker is doing. And, I think it's healthier to be like that. I liken it to farming. What are some of the best relationships out there that we have known from stretch out the timeline of humanity long enough? What are the most healthy relationships tend to be the families that were farming or in old school merchanting, but rarely where there was a homemaker and then a dude at the job. There's a lot of resentment that builds because of that, I think. Could be wrong.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm just adding that on how my actual life is, and I'm going to be an honest guy. Better to be human.
Experiences.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember this one fella, I'm not going to name drop him, but he told me he's in sales, phenomenal salesman. Mm-hmm. The hardest sale you'll ever do is come home. As soon as you walk through that door after a hard day of work, that's the hardest sale you'll ever have to make.
That's interesting.
And that sale happens every day.
Yeah. This I've never heard before.
It's a hard sale. So what is your opinion on working with your significant other, and does it work? And maybe you can touch base, working with your family, because I know you and some of your family members have that relationship to a certain extent. Is that doable? Is that not doable? And would you continue or stop doing that?
I would never not want to do that. And the reason being is because to me personally it would be boring to not have everybody involved. I'm going to involve my daughter no matter if she likes it or not. She is going to do professional tasks for me. And if she doesn't, there's going to be a consequence or a ramification. At the very least, there will be a social ramification in the dynamic between her and I. And I know that that sounds very tyrannical. I don't care, to be honest. I really don't. And I don't think in terms of my own life and that I'm here for these many years. I really don't. I think it's one of the reasons where I just don't, I don't fear death at all. Like, I'm not out there trying to jump over, like walk on the edge of a cliff. But the fear of death is not a part of my life at all, because I think I'm a placeholder. All right. I got these genes in me, and, I want to, I've passed them on. And so it's not just me anymore. I do believe that not immortality, because I believe in a soul, but I believe you're transferring it through your bloodline, right? And I think a family that works together is simply protecting their bloodline better than those that don't.
Italy, for example, right?
Well, tell me what you mean by that.
Family owned for years, almost when I went to Italy a couple years ago, the families have owned the fields for so many years, it's almost impossible. And that's, talking to locals, it's impossible to start your own company because everything is so generational. So everything just goes passed down and everybody's passionate about doing that. So when there's a sale, it's like a crazy event. Wow, that field, that vineyard was sold.
Yeah,
that wheat field has been sold.
Even though it's been under the family for 200-300 years.
Yeah, so that means the family sold out. And that's a huge situation.
The family sold out.
Yeah. One thing that I've learned that was really interesting for me was when we're talking about working with spouses, significant others, the man will ultimately resemble himself unto the wife. And this is a biblical truth. The woman is a mere reflection of the man. And that's something I'm learning too, which is kind of crazy. But the way the man treats the woman is how she will become. She's wired from the rib, from Adam's rib. She was created.
I should internalize this more, actually.
She was created as a helper. But what you put into your significant other, especially a female, that's what you're going to get out. And the more love and the more care and the more everything you put into it, that's where you're going to get out, which is kind of interesting. And I feel like instead of putting in good into spouses, a lot of people just try to curveball with a change. They try to become Bob the Builder. Again, these are all things I'm learning, so I'm just dropping some stuff.
Is this all stuff that you're learning in marriage counseling?
Yeah. Everyone's trying to become Bob the Builder and try to change to exactly what an idealistic thing would be, right? I want this person to be this way because this is what I want. And this is my situation of how I want it to be. Instead of being, this person was gifted to me by God to be in my life. And what I put into her, she will give out probably multiples in return. So if you put in irritation, you're going to get double irritation back.
Fascinating.
If you're going to put in love, you're going to get double the love back. But the interesting equation of that is when you put in love, in return, you get respect. Because love equals respect for a female.
See, this is why I like having him as my friend.
It blows my mind sometimes to think that. And when I heard that my fiance, Kate, is a complete mirror of what I am, it changes completely everything about, let's not think about what she did if she reacted one way or another way. Let's think about more about what I did to make that happen. Whoa.
I mean, because that's a gift, right? The ability to kind of objectively look at the situation without the bias of thinking that you didn't do anything wrong in whatever circumstance.
Well, yeah.
That's a learned skill.
This is a journey I'm
But
just
that is a learned
out.
skill.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is a journey I'm just starting out with, and I'm excited for this journey because for me, again, I see the finish line. If the finish line is an immensely incredible, flourishing her, that means I'm doing something right, and then an us situation goes to the roof.
Yeah, that's interesting.
gosh, that just off the charts. Okay, I'm gonna pivot.
Yeah. Okay.
Because we can mull through that for a bit. What are your thoughts? And I'm actually curious to hear this in detail and in depth where you think this is going. But we started out, let's say 10, 15 years ago, everyone's working 9 to 5. College is important. This is all like, go after it, get your degree, finish high school, get your GED, all of the above. And in the last 2-3 years, especially COVID times, people were so encouraged and so pushed to start their own companies. Where do you think this push is gonna
Lead to?
Yeah, and is it gonna go back to 9 to 5s with failed businesses as well as succeeded businesses? Do you think this is gonna help or like damage the economy?
These are good questions. I do think that there's going to be a lot of failed businesses. And I don't mean that because I'm not optimistic. I think that's just natural and cleansing. That not everybody is meant to take those chances. Not everybody's a risk taker. I should actually preface that. I think everybody has the capacity to take risks. Not everybody has the capacity to mitigate the repercussions of certain things around those risks. And I actually think that it was interesting how entrepreneurial people were getting. See, entrepreneurship is really just a survival mechanism, right? You got scarce resources, you need to get more, and you try to figure out a way to get them. Unfortunately, the thing that wipes entrepreneurship away the most is government aid. The moment a person does not have their back to a wall because they have a subsidy to allow them to exist, they will not find any creative solutions in their own lives. And so I think a lot of businesses will actually fail because there's too much government help out there. And so they will actually become complacent and not continually evolve whatever product or service that they're selling. Okay. Now, what's interesting, because I think we're touching on the economy just in general, is that February of this year had the most amount of job losses that our country has seen since 2009. But job losses are different from unemployment, because unemployment numbers come in once a person, let's say they evaporate their cash deposits, they can no longer get help from friends or family, their unemployment, whatever, all these things run out, and then they go apply for government programs to continually like live whatever lifestyle that they were living prior. Well, those numbers haven't come out yet, because if you lose your job, the vast majority of people are like, oh, I'm on, what do they call it? Like, I'm on unemploymentcation or whatever, like this stupid term that people just made up where they're like trying to soften the shame of losing your job, which, let's be honest, be ashamed. Like this, it's okay to be ashamed.
Yeah.
Like shame is actually an okay feeling.
Oh, yeah.
Shame drives people sometimes. Okay. But this like all of a sudden turning, I lost my job into like this, oh, I'm so proud that I've lost my job thing, whatever. But the people aren't starting immediately. So if you lose your job on Monday, they're not going into trying to get the help on Tuesday. Okay. And so I think we're going to actually see a lot of businesses crash and fail because the economy is shrinking. People say it, they're acting as if it's not. They're lying through their teeth. And they're doing it because they're tribal and they're choosing sides and they want to back the person they think that is the best, because that's just how people are. They're naturally like it's a team sport, right? Or it's every politics is a sport. You're going to choose your Vikings because you hate the Packers type of thing, right? It's just
Absolutely.
what it is. And I think that there will be people that, and I also think the government isn't going to be able to to bail out as many people as people thought it could forever, infinitely, like it used to, because the straining of resources is very real right now. And so I think that your question is, will there be like, let's just call it bankruptcies. Will there be a lot of bankruptcies? Yes, that's my projection. Will people go back into 9-to-5s? I think so, because the help will actually evaporate, because there's only so much help that can be given. And I don't know when this will happen, and I don't know if it actually will, but look at the macro challenges that we're dealing with right now, right? Like energy, the supply of energy domestically. Well, energy is getting more expensive, so that means if it's getting more expensive, that means the supply is actually running out, right? Because we're over-regulating the development of energy, and we're making it more expensive, and because of that, it's shrinking, whatever. Like, do companies do better if the building that they work in, or that they're leasing to build this product, are they doing better if their bill goes from $20,000 a year to $50,000 a year just on the energy cost? Where's that squeeze put onto? Is that going to cut somebody's employment? Of course it does, right? Like, you think of all these things. So, however, I think there's going to be a lot of bankruptcies, but I think there will be a lot less students going to college. And so I think that the young will be skipping on 9-to-5s. The people that are going to be coming back into the 9-to-5s, they are the 45 to 65-year-olds. They're not going to be starting new jobs because they thought they had a good idea, but they didn't have they weren't creative enough to keep it going and to evolve it as the continued expenses kept increasing, right? But the people that are 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, they're going to say to themselves, I don't know, $36,000 a year, and I'm not even guaranteed like a bunch of hot girls dating me, because I think that a lot of these younger people are going to be like, they're going to see it. They're going to be completely unenamored with it. They're going to see people that are older than them that went to the schools that kept getting fired, new job, fired, new job, and fired, new job. And they're going to be like, there's something about that. There's something about that that's not real. And they're not gonna get tricked. University is a scam. Not all of it. Not all of it. But the amount of filler classes that we are paying some of these teachers should not have the right to get paid what they are for some of these filler classes. No. And they're destroying is what's happening. So you're gonna see some of these kids in high school that they are going to wildly like replace these small businesses.
So here's the thing with that. And I had 2 associates recently quit on me and went with a full-time job.
Oh, interesting.
Young guys.
Okay.
I'm not going to say guys or girls, just guys, as like a plural of both.
Okay.
So nobody knows who it is because we're a small team. I think that it's an easy decision to say, I'm going to be a CEO, I'm going to be a owner of my own company. But it's a whole different ball game to put in the hard work and say, I'm actually going to see this through. When I hire on associates, I'm like, here's a project. The more you get done, the more you get paid. The faster you get done, the more you get paid. The work is usually done in a very 9-to-5 style. You know, when salary folks, they'll sit and do a 2-hour project within 8 hours just because, why not? Stretch your legs. I think that idea, I'm not sure that the younger gen has the fire and that crazy ambition to go after it. I think they have the dream and potential, but I don't know about the hard work. I think they want it easy. And
so where are they going to get their income then if they want it easy?
I think they're going to default to 9-to-5. And I've only seen
That's
it.
interesting.
So I don't know if they will. But for me, seeing these younger bucks willing to collect, willing to do everything but hard work, then you're like, dude, you got to put in the blood, sweat, and tears.
You have to.
Something's got to drive you.
You got to do stuff that you don't want to do.
Yeah.
And a lot of it.
Yeah. And
for a long time.
think about all these people who are super duper like hardworking. They had some kind of stupid thing that happened to them. Something that happened, maybe bullying, maybe a father like we talked about earlier, maybe something weird that drives me thinking like I might not have another day to live. And that drives me like crazy knowing that like, hey, today might be my last day. Why not get all of this accomplished and make somebody happy? I'm not sure if the younger gen that's coming up now, seeing everything that's going on, I see a lot of them being like, oh yeah, I'm going to be a merch company living in their dad's basement.
They can only do that because they're getting help by their family.
Ha.
And that's going to go away if their parents are losing their jobs.
Ooh.
So what happens? I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. But what I will say, because you know that I cold call. I cold call and I'm calling neighborhoods and I'm asking people if they want to sell their home. I'm coming across more people that are in their late 50s that are getting pink slipped. And that didn't happen last year. Definitely didn't happen the year prior. That's a thing.
I think 2020 uncovered something for all of us that there's no real security 9 to 5. Why are people going back? Because they have no other option. You need to pay the bills.
I read somewhere that no employment has grown faster than government work, and that drives me. That very much scares me.
Really?
Yeah, because government is, you don't want to get on a list and disparage your government, but I mean, it's not providing a lot of solutions because there's no way to, there's no checks and balances. And so if like all of a sudden people are just like getting government jobs, like mediocre or whatever, boring, repetitive, they don't have to make anybody proud of a great task by being of service. So I really have this like problem with this term where someone says they never served when they work for any kind of a government. Because to me, it's like, well, that's actually the most selfish job you could ever take because you can't get fired.
Yeah.
So you can be employee and there's no consequence. So what do you mean? Service to who? And so like you served yourself. You served yourself because you were mediocre.
Yeah. Gosh.
I work every day. What is it even like to have weekends off?
Well, I'm hoping that with our new product that's coming out,
yeah, I'm pretty excited about it.
We'll be able to make a few.
Take a small vacation here or there.
I think so. Yeah. I think a little Europe trip or something.
Yeah.
Before we jump into some shameless stuff, because I'd love to just touch base real quick.
Yeah, we got to talk about shameless.
Guilt and shame.
Yeah.
I was talking to my old therapist. By the way, I'm really pro counseling and pro therapy. And that I'm talking about one-on-one.
Steffen, I get my therapy from you. I just want you to know.
And the reason why I'm pro therapy is this. Mm-hmm. I love, and I used to talk a lot to, I've told you about Jurczyk. So Jurczyk, if you're watching this, thank you for being my friend. I used to a lot.
I'm sorry you got into that car accident, by the way. You told me. That sucks.
Yeah, it really sucks.
You'll get through it.
Oh, yeah. I used to call him and dish everything. We're talking about like a 2-3 hour conversation where I dish all my garbage. And then I was like, you know what? I don't think my friend should be the one carrying this garbage and this baggage. You know what I'm talking about? Like just a straight up, like there's a Russian word, panos, you know? Like I decided to go to a therapist and it was so cathartic. And it was such a beautiful thing where I could just dish my garbage and I was paying for him. So I never felt guilty, nor did I feel ashamed. And it turned into a really interesting conversation and it was an interesting situation because he benefited more from those sessions than I did.
I remember when you told me something along these lines.
He couldn't wait to see me due to my chaotic things that I had going on in my life. I mean, from all my traumas to my stresses to my crazy nights, and he would listen to all of it, and he would listen to everything, and I think he enjoyed it so much that
he wasn't giving advice anymore.
No. But one thing he did teach me, so thank you, John, for teaching me this. He taught me the difference between guilt and shame.
Okay.
And this has lived with me for a hot minute. Guilt can be changed with an apology. You feel guilty, you apologize, forgiven. Shame cannot. When somebody's ashamed of you, you can either give in or walk away. But you cannot say, I'm sorry, because shame will not be resolved with an I'm sorry.
So how do you fix shame then?
Give in or walk away.
What is
Whoever is shaming you or whoever is trying to put shame on you, it's on them unless you allow it to be on you.
That's interesting.
So shame is a very, I would say it's a narcissistic trap, especially when parents would say, I'm ashamed of you.
It's what they're really saying is I'm embarrassed
Yeah.
of you for not doing what I say or something like that.
Yeah, and what do you say? I'm sorry you're embarrassed? That's not going to fix anything. Embarrassed isn't
No,
embarrassed.
but that definitely changes the power dynamic.
But if you let it to be and you let yourself fall into that shame, a lot of crippled minds come out of that. Shame will put you down in such an incredible way that you will just never be able to get out of. Guilt, on the other hand, hey, I'm so sorry. You're forgiven. Done. You let it go.
I've met people that have like shame for years on end, and it is something that they've not ever like gotten out of. For most of my life, I thought that wanting to forgive others was a weak character. Like, that's so pathetic. You were so willing to just forgive XYZ for slighting you. Now I realize that like the forgiving of others is extremely like, it's not just strong, but it like allows you to just focus on what matters. The inability to forgive will almost make you ashamed, I think. It is like you almost get trapped in like this like feedback loop. Yeah. So I try to forgive quicker, but that doesn't necessarily mean like, oh no, you're my buddy forever type of a thing, right? Like I forgive you, you slighted me. I forgive you. I'm moving on. You know, I hope you figure and you know, maybe, but I also don't close doors anymore. I used to. Like, I really used to just sever, no longer a part of my life. I give them the chance where they can do it. But they got to figure that out before they can kind of like essentially come back, you know?
Yeah.
I'm not a perfect person, and I hope that nobody like watches this and is like, God, Geoffrey really thinks that like he's the smartest. I absolutely do not. There's a remarkable amount I do not know. At least I know that. So, but I think that I am getting into that age of my life where I know that I can help people, and I know that I need help. And in addition to that, I know when certain people don't deserve my help, if that makes any sense.
It's powerful.
Yeah.
And I agree. I think it's very strong, and it's a really important characteristic to have, to forgive and let go. Because as soon as you don't forgive, you literally on purpose put it on yourself.
For sure.
And then you're carrying the baggage.
You're carrying it.
For what? And that's very, very similar to shame. And you're probably feeling shame for not forgiving somebody, but why would you want any kind of baggage on yourself? We have so much stress already in this world. Everything's a stress case. Like, turn on the TV.
But Steffen, was it ever not like that? I see. This is the thing that I don't understand. Was there really a period of human existence where there wasn't like a ton of stress? Like, was there a period? Like, I don't buy this idea that the Native Americans, you know, dancing around in the fields, you know, chasing bison. I don't believe that they had a stressless life. I just don't. Like, that sounds stressful. You're like, okay, I just ate all my barbecue. I don't have any more. It's all gone. And there's no fridge.
That's a pain.
And you're looking around and you don't see any bison anywhere. Where did our meat go? And you're looking around. 2 days pass. Oh, man, I'm getting really hungry. Okay, the 5th day passed, and you've already eaten all your jerky. Okay, it's gone. Okay, like 10 days passed. You're looking at each other. Everybody's gone. Maybe they were so sexy because they were all so gaunt that it was just like, you know what? These women are like looking great. It's like maybe they weren't stressed because of that. I don't know.
Yeah. When you start this saying the twos look like tens, you're definitely too hungry.
Twos look like tens.
You're definitely too hungry. You need to go get some food.
That's funny though.
Gosh. But we are very excited about Shameless Farms.
Yes, very.
And that's something that I have the honor to be a partner with you and Maddie on this. And it's an incredible situation that's launching. I don't know how much we want to talk about the new product. Maybe we'll do a separate video and you guys keep an eye out. Shameless Farms. But
I think we're proud of having another type of health delivery mechanism that I want to be healthy. You want to be healthy. We want longevity in our lives. I'm 39 now. I do not feel like I'm in my early 20s, and I don't have time to make tons of salads every single day. And I love meat, but I don't subscribe to the idea that meat is the answer for everything. Correct. I think there are a plethora of other micronutrients that exist that are very beneficial to human health. And I'm just really excited because it's ours. We know where it's coming from. We care about it. And I think that it will be very well received by others that are as health conscious as Steffen and I are. That doesn't mean like we're some Herculean guys that are like in the gym all day, right? Like, we got a little bit of a tummy. It's because we work hard trying to like look great in the buff, right?
Yeah.
I think it's going to be a lot of fun for people to tell us that it makes them feel good. That's what I'm looking for the most. I'm looking forward to hearing people saying, this is convenient. We're getting extreme high concentrations of nutrients that aren't even in most vegetables, right? Because we're getting them more at their source.
Yeah.
And, it's, we have so many processed options around us. It's going to be nice to have another easy solution to keep us healthy. And I'm excited that the three of us are the reason this is going to be coming into existence.
Oh, yeah. And simple, easy, convenient, travel friendly.
I love the convenience.
Throw it in a bag.
Yeah.
It's going to be absolutely epic. And I think it's going to change the world. It's going to be incredible.
Yeah.
I love it.
Do you want to share the name?
Oh, yeah. You ready?
You go for it.
40X.
Oh, I love it.
That name is so good. 40X, baby. Come on.
40X.
So for everybody listening, 40X is coming out to the market next month for you guys. Super excited. So keep on the lookout. You'll see a lot of videos of me and Geoffrey here. We'll be blowing up the internets. But meanwhile, you heard it here first. Exclusive content. But I did want to finish with this thing here. You said smile, ask, and gratitude. I like those 3 steps a lot. And when you ask, I'm going to go beyond just real estate about asking. And I'm going to encourage everybody to ask mega big. But what I mean by that is God provided us life and he wants us to ask a ton. And I feel like so many of us ask very little. There's a parable in the Bible where the blind man was sitting there. And I love this parable only because it just hits me home so much with how the perspective of Jesus and how Jesus responded and how the blind man was talking to him. So Jesus was walking down the road. The man goes, Jesus, I need your help. He's blind. Everyone knew. The crowd knew. Everyone knew he needs help. He's like, he's calling for Jesus. Everybody understands, hey, he's blind. He's probably looking for something. He actually asks him, what do you want from me? And the blind man, this is what drove me nuts. In our society, most people would say, God, I'd love those like really cool patches that have like lashes on them or something. Or how about a community? How about a really cool community where people come together as blind folks and we can all like encourage each other? Instead of doing that, he asked for the impossible. He's like, let me see. Open my vision. And I feel like so many of us are either afraid or don't want to ask the big questions or ask for the crazy things. Like, I want a Lamborghini yacht and I'm asking for it. Okay? I'm asking Gio, I need a Lamborghini. When it happens, just let me know. I'll put it into Lake Minnetonka.
I want a big greenhouse.
Oh, I love
no, what are those called? The ones that are outside that are like for flowers and such. Those are called a terrarium. I want a big terrarium of the big material things. But I think you're right. Like, people are just unwilling to ask for things. They want the things that they ask for is to be told that their feelings are valid. That's what they ask for, though. But truly, those are the things that people ask for.
Yeah.
I want you to tell me that my sadness is valid. Please.
I'm depressed.
Yeah.
And they just stare at you.
Listen, I just said I'm depressed. I want you to make sure that I know that you know that.
Acknowledge me right now.
Acknowledge it. No.
Acknowledge that
Instead of I need a job, I am willing to work for you. Will you give me a job?
100%.
Yeah.
Guys, thank you so much for joining us today. We're excited that you came all the way here to the finish line of this episode. If you listened on 2X, good for you. But if you didn't, still good for you. Have a good one.
Yeah, I like it.